Healthy blessings, everyone. Today, we have a very special guest who is a member of the pastoral staff here at Holy Trinity in Westfield. Particularly important is the role that Lori plays as Parish Nurse. Back in September of 2019, before anyone ever thought that 2020 would carry with it a pandemic that has touched lives worldwide, our community, in collaboration with the Health Cabinet and our pastoral staff, decided to invite a nurse onto our staff, onto our ministries. We are primarily, as a Christian community, a community focused on healing. Jesus of Nazareth taught and went about a healing and preaching ministry. Today, our parish nurse can honestly be titled Christ the Nurse. Over these months, Lori has participated in many people's lives as someone who has the professional competency as a healthcare professional, but also brings a compassionate heart to the journey of healing in Christ. Our emotional health, our spiritual health, our physical health, holistic health is at the center of what is called in many sectors congregational nursing, faith-based nursing. Now, as we have experienced the pandemic over these 2.5 months, our lives have changed. We know more about health and virus and symptoms, and maybe we know more than we would ever want to know about certain topics. Nevertheless, as a community centered in Christ the Healer, today I have a few questions. The 3 questions that I'd like to pose to our dear Lori. The first question is this: Lori, what have you learned about people through this pandemic in the role as parish nurse? What have you learned? I mean, you have been in contact with so many people on the phone, and you have been about a ministry of care, comfort, and compassion. What have you learned about people that is something that you said, oh, I realize this better now about the human person, about human behavior, about how a person feels? Tell us what you've learned through these pandemic weeks.
So I've learned that there are so many people out there who are so willing to help. It's healing for them. There's so many volunteers who want to be part of this, who want to help in any which way they can. And by doing so, it's healing for them, that they're doing something for others in need. And then there are the people at home that I would see before this whole pandemic, and like the shut-ins and the elderly. And they're just concerned about me. I'm like, well, what do you need? You're home alone. Some of them don't have local relatives here. And I'm like, tell me what you need. It's not a problem. I go food shopping or I'm out anyway. No, I don't want to bother you. So they're more concerned about other people's well-being and my safety than their own. So that's part of what I've learned so far.
That is very distinctive in the heart of people to be concerned about others.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. The second question I have for you is, tell us about your collaboration with your dear mentor, Marion, and that relationship and how she has mentored you, and also how you've connected with other colleagues who are faith-based nurses, congregational nurses like Karen. If you could just share with the community those 2 very significant relationships that have been a part of your formation as a parish nurse.
So Marion has been not only my mentor, but basically teaching me all there is to know about parish nursing. And throughout this whole pandemic, I reached out to her because I wanted to know that what I was feeling, which was guilt about not being there in the hospitals on the front line, was something that she shared as well. And the same for Karen Franks. They're both faith community nurses for over 25 years, and I thought who better to ask than somebody who's been doing this for so long. And they had the same feelings. This is why we went into the profession from the beginning, was to help people. And if we couldn't be out there helping the patients who had the active virus in the hospitals, then how can we help? And they were so reassuring and helped me so much in the beginning and throughout this, because what they shared with me is that we're not on the front line, but we're here at the homeland. We're on the sidelines, and we're helping those on the front lines deal with their everyday work. And our work is just as important by dealing with our integration of mind, body, and spirit with those that are at home, and in that manner. So they've helped me tremendously throughout all this. And Marion's been a godsend for me. So.
Lori, I know that you have also been supporting some of our local nurses who are on the front line. Can you tell the community how you've done some of that support for the nurses coming back home after a long day, and some of the meals that you coordinated? Can you share that with the community?
So this all started with a Zoom meeting Father Anthony and I had with some of the nurses from the parish. And it was a platform for them to just vent, talk about what they're going through, share ideas. And from that initial Zoom meeting, I was able to stay in touch with them. We realized it was a great initial way to contact them, but then after that, we wanted them to have their private time at home with their families. But I've been in touch with them via text or email or phone calls, and they've been able to tell me what they need to do their job or what they need at home. One nurse had expressed a need for holy water because she explained to me that she's basically the only person that the patient sees throughout her shift. And a lot of the patients were just fearful, and all they wanted was to say a prayer and just to be reassured. So that holy water was something that helped her to get through the day and deal with the patients who were sick and some were dying. So I supplied her with the holy water. And then that gave me an idea of putting packages together for other nurses with holy water and prayer cards and just other things that were donated. Another nurse said that she worked in the ICU and she wanted extension cords. So I used my resources to gather extension cords and tape and baby monitors and bring that to them as well. These nurses, after working long shifts, would go home, and a lot of them had families to feed. So I'm like, oh my goodness, I would hate to have to first come home after a long day of working and start cooking and worrying about, do I have the food that I need to prepare a meal? So I started sending out some dinners to them, and they were so grateful. Getting back to the volunteers, they wanted to do something. So one of the things that I did, because who knew that it would last, 2.5, 3 months, I connected some of the volunteer families with the nurse families, and they've been providing ongoing meals for the nurses. And from the giving side of it and the recipient side, the nurses, it's been a great situation. So,
Lori, that is such a witness of your ministry as being a bridge builder. As a bridge builder, you're connecting people. People are getting to know people, perhaps that they didn't know before. And this is also very much part of the collective compassionate response, is that through our resources, through who we know and how we can help one another, we expedite good, solid help for people, particularly those right now on the front lines, like the nurses and healthcare professionals. So that is indeed something the community is very grateful to your ingenuity and to your motivation to keep creating different initiatives of compassion and care of others. Can you now tell the community, as we wrap up this interview, some of your plans for the future? You've spoken to me about this wonderful program that we have with Dr. D'Angelo from Trinitas Hospital. Can you tell the community when that's going to be? A little bit of a background. Your role has also been one of great information. If people have checked our website, you put up always the latest information on the coronavirus and the best protocols with wearing the mask. In fact, you have one of the masks right there. You might want to show that mask there, made by Carmela. I have mine right here. And it's very much a part of our lives these days to be cognizant of the other and of ourselves by wearing the mask. So Lori, tell us about this wonderful event that's upcoming this month of May.
Before the virus, we had started programs with Trinitas, and we did a heart healthy program here, which was so well received, and the turnout was fabulous. So I've connected with them again because I feel like at this point we've been inundated with information, you know, all about social distancing and washing hands. But where are we now with this pandemic? And who better to get that information from than a director of an ER like Trinitas? So we're going to be putting together a Zoom meeting with him, and people want to know, also hear from our pastors of St. Helens and you, Father Anthony. So we're putting that together for, right now it's going to be Friday, May 29th, and I think at 4 o'clock, but we'll be putting it out there on local online newspapers. And the other thing that also came from that initial Zoom meeting with the nurses is one of the nurses, Jen Ryan, who's also a maternity nurse, had offered her services to new moms and expecting moms. And that meeting went so well. I can't imagine what it would be like if I was a new mom and I didn't have play groups and mommy and me time, and they're home with this little infant and they don't know what to do. They have all these questions and they don't have other moms to share that with. So with Jen's expertise advice, it went over so well, and at the end they're like, so we're going to have this again, right? We want this to be ongoing, and they made a connection, those moms. So that's going to continue, and possibly a caregiver support group. So as this evolves, different needs evolve, and I, would be happy to respond to that.
Thank you, Lori. I began this interview on this beautiful spring, summer-like day here in this chapel with dear Marina behind the camera bringing this to you. And I pointed out Christ as nurse. Christ as nurse. Do not use that phrase lightly. One can tell by what our dear parish nurse, Lori, has shared with us in this interview, how essential, talk about essential workers. You have just heard from an essential worker behind the scenes. There are essential workers on the front line, and there are essential workers whose work is noticed by some, and whose work is always seen by God. May God bless Lori and all her ministry, and bless all the congregational and faith-based nurses. May we see the end of this pandemic. May we come to healthy days, and may we all stay healthy in Christ.